Quieted down so nicely. I wish my courtrooms were this respectful of my let's sit down and quiet down. All right, everybody, good afternoon. My name is Matt Parker Rosso. My pronouns are him, he. I am the supervising judge of Bronx Civil Court and the co-chair of the New York City Civil Court's Equal Justice Implementation Committee, or NYC EJIC for short. On behalf of the NYC EJIC, the 12th Judicial District's Gender Fairness Committee, the Equal Justice Committee of Bronx Supreme Court Criminal Term, the Appellate Division First Department's Anti-Bias Committee, the Bronx Family Court Equal Justice Committee, and the Bronx County Bar Association. Welcome to the Boogie Down Bronx, and happy Pride! We are so excited and proud to host what I think is the first citywide court LGBTQ plus Pride event, live in person here at 851 Grand Concourse and live streaming. So again, welcome everyone to the Bronx, and hello to our extended court family watching us remotely. Our very own DCAJ for Justice Initiatives, the Honorable Edwina Richardson, was scheduled to be with us here today in person to offer some welcoming remarks. But you may have heard that something rather important came up upstate and that prevented her from being with us here in person today. However, being the completely supportive, wonderful, incredible person and self-proclaimed daughter of the Bronx that she is, she took time from her very busy schedule to greet us from afar. So without further ado, I'll direct everyone's attention to the screen, and I give you the Honorable Edwina Richardson.
Month Court family, I'm so sorry I'm unable to join you in person for today's program. I hope you know that I am truly there with you in spirit. I do love the 2024 Pride Month theme, Reflect, Empower, Unite. I also deeply appreciate that this is an equal justice, gender fairness, and anti-bias LGBTQ plus Pride event. I offer heartfelt thanks to all of our sponsors, our Equal Justice Committees in New York City, Bronx Family Court, Bronx Supreme Court Criminal Term, our Appellate Division First Department's Anti-Bias Committee, and the Gender Fairness Committee for the 12th Judicial District, and of course, the Bronx County Bar Association. Thank you all. I also offer special thanks to all of the panelists who are serving to educate us today, hailing from all across New York City. Charlie Arrowwood, Senior Counsel for the FALA LGBTQ Commission, Bernadette Falco, Court Officer from the Civil Court in Queens County, Dawn Hill Kersey, Borough Chief Clerk, Civil Court, Kings County, the Honorable Norma Jennings, Supervising Judge of New York County Housing Court, and Robert Martinez, Court Attorney, Bronx Supreme Court Criminal Term. And of course, I must thank your phenomenal moderator, my dear friend, the Honorable Matthew Parker Rosso, Supervising Judge of the Bronx Civil Court. How lucky are we all that you are willing to share your lives, your personal stories, and your experiences within the LGBTQ plus community with us. The 2023 Women's History Month theme was Women Who Share Our Stories. And I personally believe that that should be the theme for all identity celebrations. Let us share our stories. Let us become better. The mission of the unified court system is to deliver equal justice under the law and to achieve the just, fair, and timely resolution of all matters that come before our courts. And in the service of our mission, our court system is committed to operating with integrity and transparency, and to ensuring that all who enter or serve in our courts are treated with respect, dignity, and professionalism. We affirm our responsibility to promote a court system free from any and all forms of bias and discrimination, and to promote a judiciary and a workforce that reflect the rich diversity of New York State. Now, you know that I lead our court system's equal justice endeavors. It is celebrations like this that help us meet that mission I just spoke of. It helps us to meet our mission and our mandate to provide equal justice for all. I want to mention that we have now in New York City 5 brand new access and equal justice coordinators serving to support all of our access to justice endeavors and our equal justice endeavors like today's court program. I thank them for being willing to serve the cause of justice. They are Latoya Phillip, Marcel Hines, China Cummings, Robert West, and Darren Edwards. Hoy. Please, please, please make sure you welcome them as I do with a full and appreciative heart. As we celebrate Pride Month, I want us to remember as we celebrate to also honor and learn from our personal and historical pain points. Celebrations like this have stemmed from points of pain along with points of power. And I want us to remember that. And I want us to also ensure that we allow events like the one we're doing today to reinvigorate us and affirm our commitment to foster a work community and a world where love prevails. If you know me, you know that I am unapologetic about my faith in the power of love. I lead with love unapologetically, as I said, it is my superpower. Cornel West said it best, justice is what love looks like in public. And what we are doing here is an act of love, and it will enhance our ability to be the best judges we can be, the best court professionals possible. Let us learn and educate ourselves so we can be better colleagues, better public servants, and better humans. Thank you for allowing me to greet you, and I hope to see you soon. And once again, happy Pride, everyone.
That there were some technical difficulties that the Honorable Edwina Richardson could not be heard on the live stream when she was speaking. So hopefully when we record that, we'll edit it in. But that was a wonderful welcome from Judge Richardson, and we'll try to get that done in the recording. My apologies on behalf of the committees. Okay, so before we get going into the actual program, I'd just like to give thanks to our local New York City EJIC members who were with us to plan this event, who helped decorate this beautiful room to make it festive, and who are in the back serving lunch. And we even have members up here giving some swag to the people who are coming through the doors. All right, so bravo, brava to our EJIC members. I want to give a special shout out to my own court attorney and New York City Civil Court Equal Justice Implementation Committee co-chair for Bronx Civil Court, Chantel Castro, because she went above and beyond during this program. She made this amazing rainbow balloon arch that we have here. So thank you, Chantel, and thank you for keeping me sane during all of this, okay? All right, so as you heard or may not have heard from Judge Richardson, the theme of LGBTQ plus Pride Month is Reflect, Empower, Unite. So this year, we are keeping it all in the court family with panelists from across New York City, from diverse backgrounds, to get a broad stroke of the LGBTQ plus experience here in New York City and in our nation. The questions that we will be presenting to the panelists today are in line with that theme of Reflect, Empower, and Unite. And by the end of the program, we hope to have provided the panelists with an opportunity to reflect upon their own experiences so that they can help empower others within the LGBTQ plus community and our allies, and ultimately unite LGBTQ plus people with our allies in the common goal of achieving equal justice for LGBTQ plus people. Ground rules, okay? It is not easy to come from all over the city and share personal experiences like we may be sharing today, okay? It takes courage for people to do that. And I applaud each and every one of you for giving us time and sharing your stories with us. We are here to learn and grow from one another. All right, and I just want everyone in the room to understand that this is a respectful and affirming space, and we are in the spirit of learning from one another. The questions will be floated to the panelists, and anyone can answer or not answer. And to cover all three themes, I may move us along due to time constraints. Please don't hold that against me. I won't cut your mic or start playing music, but we'll keep it moving along. All right. So you heard the names and titles of our panelists from Judge Richardson. I'm going to repeat them. So immediately next to me, we have Dawn Hill Kears, Esquire, pronoun she, her. She's been employed with the Unified Court System for 23 years. She's Deputy Chief Clerk 5 and current Borough Chief Clerk of King's Civil Court. Prior to her career in the courts, Dawn served 8 years as an active duty Army service member, attaining the rank of sergeant. Thank you for your service. While serving her country, Dawn traveled extensively and was stationed in Nuremberg, Germany, Fort Liberty, formerly known as Fort Bragg Army Base, Fayetteville, North Carolina, and Walter Reed Army Medical Center in Washington, D.C. Upon returning to New York, Dawn worked for the NYPD as a 911 emergency operator and police radio dispatcher. Dawn graduated magna cum laude from John Jay College of Criminal Justice, yes, John Jay, earning a combined BA, MA degree in criminal justice and a Juris Doctorate from St. John University School of Law. Dawn is a public servant who finds joy in helping the public, as well as training and mentoring the next generation of court supervisors and managers. Dawn and her wife, Deputy Chief Clerk 5, correct, Keisha Kears, the current Borough Chief Clerk of Queens Family Court, live in Queens, New York. They are recent empty nesters. Sorry to hear that. Dawn and Keisha have 3 children, Danae, Nyla, and Anthony, and the best granny girl in the whole world, Dawnella. Thank you for joining us, Dawn. Okay, immediately next down the line is Charlie Arroward, they, them, is senior counsel to the Richard C. Fela LGBTQ Commission in the New York State Courts, where they develop policy and provide education to increase and equity and access for LGBTQ plus court users, from litigants to attorneys and court employees. Prior to this role, Charlie was name change project manager and managed name change project counsel at the Transgender Legal Defense and Education Fund, where they managed advocacy efforts and provided technical assistance to pro bono partners. They also provided name and document change assistance to transgender New Yorkers through their private practice. Charlie is a former commissioner on the Fela Commission, former chair of the LGBTQ plus committee of the Nassau County Bar Association, and a board member at Gender Equity New York. Charlie is also the recipient of the LGBT Bar Association of New York's 2021 Community Excellence Award and was named one of the National LGBT Bar Association's 2021 Top 40 Lawyers Under 40. They are a parent of 2 and a graduate of Tulane University in 2009 and New York Law School, go NYS, in 2013. Thank you for joining us, Charlie. Let's give Charlie a round of applause. Okay, next we have Court Officer Bernadette Falco, pronoun she, her, celebrated her 30th year as a court officer on May 9th of this year. So thank you, Officer Falco. Officer Falco has served in civil court New York County and Queens County Civil Court, where she serves today, and also served as a backup driver to the Honorable Fern Fisher. We miss Judge Fisher. She received the Honorable Judith K. Life-Saving Award for saving the life of now retired Judge David Hawkins with 3 fellow court officers. Officer Falco has represented the court's Gay-Straight Alliance, appearing at various functions and visiting with recruits in the Court Officers Training Academy to inform them of the alliance and invite them to join the organization. So thank you for that work. Officer Falco is a New York State certified EMT and former member and officer of the Central Islip Hauppauge Volunteer Ambulance Corps and a former 911 responder. She currently resides in Lindenhurst with her wife, their 11-year-old daughter, and 3 puppies. Welcome, Officer Falco. Thank you for joining us. Okay. Next, we have the Honorable Norma Jennings, she, her. Norma is the supervising judge of New York County Housing Court. She was appointed to the bench by Chief Administrative Judge Lawrence K. Marks in 2019. Judge Jennings received a BA from Montclair State University and JD from Columbia Law School, and an MA in history from the City College of New York. Prior to her appointment to the bench, Judge Jennings served as a court attorney for the New York State Unified Court System. Her legal career also includes serving as a staff attorney at the Legal Aid Society Civil Division and the Gay Men's Health Crisis. Judge Jennings and her wife, the Honorable Juliet Howard, were the first same-sex couple appointed to the same court. Welcome, Judge Jennings. Thank you for joining us. And then last, but certainly not least, we have Robert S. Martinez, Esquire, he, him, court attorney for the Honorable Alvin Yearwood, administrative judge for Bronx Supreme Court, criminal term. Mr. Martinez is a graduate from Macalester College and Harvard Law School. Following law school, he worked as a staff attorney for Hughes, Hubbard, and Reed, specializing in complex litigation, including the Lehman Brothers bankruptcy. From 2015 to 2023, he worked for the New York City Police Department, representing the city's interests regarding the federal monitorship created as a result of the Floyd, Davis, and Ligon class action lawsuits. In that capacity, he helped negotiate and update department trainings and policies regarding stop and frisk, interior patrols, and trespass enforcement. Mr. Martinez is currently a member of the Bronx Supreme Court Criminal Terms Equal Justice in the Courts Committee. Welcome, Mr. Martinez, and thank you for joining us as well. Okay, now that we have everyone's resumes out of the way, let's get into it, okay? So, as I said, we're here to learn and grow from one each other, so let's make this conversational, shall we? All right. So the first topic and the first theme of this year's Pride Month is reflect. So let's go into the past and talk about what we've noticed from within the LGBTQ plus community with one another. I'm going to float this to the panel. Since it's the first question, I'm okay with any one of you taking this question first. A lot of people believe that our lives start at coming out. That may not be true, or it may be true, but what kinds of things might a person who is LGBTQ plus go through when they're coming out or acknowledging their true gender identity? Please feel free to share stories from your own life and coming out to your family, friends, or at work, or not, if you just have any observations about it. Judge Jennings.
Break the ice, Judge.
Yeah.
I'll break the ice. I think one change, years ago, I think when we started, we would have never had this. So one, let's say thank you for that. Yes. I want to thank everyone for coming out and attending this, because a lot of people would not have, we didn't have this. I started about 27 years ago as well. I've been in the system for a long time. I know many of the people who are here in this room. We've worked together at some point. And if you know me, I see Cynthia looking at me. I'm having eye contact with Judge Salas. We've known each other for a while. They know that I'm very outspoken. I don't really hold anything back. I am blunt. I say what I think, even on the bench sometimes, which is not good, but I do it anyway. But I think people need to know that coming out is hard. In some families, a lot of the young people are having that difficult time now. Their parents are, shunning them. They're being put out of their place to live. They have no place to live. Luckily, there are organizations. We've also, when we talked on Monday, we had the panel, someone from California was there, which houses young people, LGBTQ youth, who unfortunately have been put out by their family and have nowhere to go. I was lucky, even though I was raised by a single mother. I'm the youngest of 7 children. She wasn't stunned, but she was kind of, taken aback because in the African American community, this is not something that is spoken about a lot. The LGBTQ, especially trans youth, are having a lot of problems today as well. It is not something that was talked about, but she loved me, and that was what was most important to her. But a lot of people don't get that. A lot of people coming out don't get that. Their parents don't understand. They don't think this is the way it should be. This is not the way, quote unquote, God made you. And so that's difficult. But I was lucky. I had a mother who supported me. I had a family who supported me, my brothers and my sisters. I have 2 sons. They're adults now. They loved, my mother loved her grandchildren, those two, like she loved the other 15 that she had. She never saw a difference. She never made it a difference. She never pointed out a difference. But that is not what everyone receives, and that's unfortunate, even today.
Officer Falco?
Yeah, I'd just like to piggyback on what the judge said as far as being blessed that I had parents also who were, again, taken aback at first, but were also very accepting and very, you know, you're my daughter, we love you, we just want you to be happy. But I also found out that coming out it wasn't just to your family, you know, it was also, you know, to your friends. It was also to your coworkers, you know, prior to doing this, you know, nobody really knew anything about me personally. And when I started this job, you know, you're in the academy and it's very paramilitary and it's very, you know, not something that, you know, you really talk about. I'm lucky I did have one person who she's one of my best friends, Lieutenant Missy Bakari, who's now retired, knows her, who I could talk to at that point. But I also found like when I got to my command, once again, it was another coming out. And there was some uncomfortableness, and I had a couple of really good friends, and I remember finally one of my friends that I always took the train with, Christina, she's a clerk out in Suffolk County now. I'm like, I have something to tell you. And she kind of looked at me and she's like, duh. You know, to which I said, she's like I didn't know, you know, was her response. And she said, you know, why did you not tell me? Why did you feel you couldn't? And in all honesty, I said to her, I didn't want to lose you as a friend. You know, your friendship is very important to me, and that was kind of always in the back of your head. That's something that I hope is changing. I hope for the next generation is changing. Some things are, but it's a process. It's not as simple as flicking a switch and going, okay, here, this is me. You know, there's a lot of different steps to it, and it can be difficult, and especially for, like you're saying, children and teenagers being put out by their parents. You know, back when, you know, I was going to marches and things, you know, 17, 16-year-olds were being put in indoctrination camps to, you know, ungay them. Right. So, you know, these are things that, you know, like Charlie just said, these are things that still need to be addressed and changed.
Just really quickly, I want to offer kind of not really a flip-sided conversation, but yes, all of these things are very difficult, and it's exhausting to constantly have to have that calculation going every time you meet people and every time you enter a new situation. But the more you live authentically, it's like if you build it, they will come. You live as yourself, and every time you go out in the world as yourself, someone connects with you because you are doing that. And thank you. Like, even though those things are hard, the things that you get from being yourself and from building that community are so profound and change your life so much that, like, for me, it has never been a question that I would not live any other way besides as myself. It took me a long time for it to occur to me that I could do the things I needed to do to be myself, but I think, like, once you're out and you feel what it feels like to not have that hanging over you, it's more of like, ugh, I gotta come out to these people, not like, oh my God, my life is gonna be ruined, like all that, you know, like once you realize like this is my life and I can build around me the life that I need and want, you know, obviously that's a very privileged perspective, but also like everyone can do that. You just, like, I've never seen a community that's so supportive in like the mutual aid sense. Like if people need something, your people will be there for you. And so even though you lose the people who don't want you for your whole self, you gain a bunch more people and a whole network of community and activities and everything. It's cool. I love it.
It's kind of like, you know, to quote the movie, Greatest Showman, this is me.
Right.
You know, this is me.
Take it or leave
Take it or leave it. And the ones that leave, well, maybe they weren't meant to be there in the first place.
I think it's just a very personal type of decision, whether or not, you know, you're going to come out or not. different people in different situations. I know when I realized that I was gay, I was in the U.S. Army, and at that time, we didn't even have don't ask, don't tell. We had, if you tell, we're going to court-martial and put you out. And many of my mentors and sergeants and staff sergeants, drill sergeants that I looked up to, that I knew were excellent soldiers, they got court-martialed, right in front of my face. And so that really made me say to myself, okay, so being gay is bad. If being gay makes me a bad soldier, then being gay must be bad. So literally the whole time that I was in the military, I was closeted. And it didn't even occur to me to come out, because I was very goal-oriented, and I just said, if I want to move forward in my career and do the things that I need to do, then I need to somehow figure out a way to, keep this in, because if it was good, then, why are all
Why
these
ain't everybody
people?
doing it?
Yeah, but that's 17, 18, 19-year-old Dawn. By the time I got out the military, they had moved on to, like I said, don't ask, don't tell. And then at this point now, you can serve openly gay in the military. I didn't have that privilege, but I do have other family members who are serving in the military, and they are out, and that's wonderful. So I guess that's to that question is it's a personal thing, because you can have support, but I often think about those soldiers who got court-martialed before we have the grace that we have now. And I can't, sit here and think to myself, what they should or should not have done. I think they should have done whatever they needed to do to keep themselves safe in the moment. And that's what I did.
Thank you, Dawn. All right, I'm going to float another question to the panelists. All right. Oh, and I just wanted to pick up on one thing so we could plug each other's events. So Charlie, Judge Jennings, and I were on a panel at the First Department on Monday night. I understand that it is recorded, so go over there and check it out, because it was a really wonderful discussion. It was moderated by Alan Gray at the First Department. Thank you, Mr. Gray, for all your help on that. Okay, so what are some examples of some adversities that the LGBTQ plus community has faced in your lifetime or is currently facing now? Dawn, you want to start on that one?
Well, I think I just used my answer.
Kinda did.
Definitely, the adversity is just not being accepted, actually being criminalized. We're not too far from just who you are, the fact that you are gay or lesbian, transgender, just being criminalized. It's huge. You're trying to live your life, and the government is telling you that you're not legitimate, that who you are, the fact that you love a person the same sex as you, that's not a legal or legitimate thing, So, I mean, what we have now is completely different. Actually, we were talking on the panel earlier that the picture is so different, so recent. So we're still sort of getting used to this. Like what is this?
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think just getting comfortable with the fact that we are pretty much safe now. There are many areas where we are not. The fight continues, the struggle continues.
Well, I think if I may jump in, one of the things that I'm thinking about this morning, just before leaving my place, is that the FBI has recently issued warnings for Pride celebration events this year in 2024. And while we didn't have this, in years past, we've come this far, and now it seems like things are starting to roll back a little bit. What do you think about that with that safety warning?
Just to kind of, as
You know,
Brenda
piggyback,
said,
aren't you?
piggyback, yeah. on what Dawn said. I think in New York, we are spoiled.
Yes.
We are so spoiled because we have a community, we have a large LGBTQ community here.
Downstate.
Well, downstate.
Yeah.
Downstate. I mean,
Okay,
we have
all
some
right.
upstate as well. Like I say, all the judges on the Field Commission are from upstate. There, we have Court of Claims judges that are from the 4th Department.
Pride flags
So,
everywhere.
Good.
Yeah, the pride flag is next to, who's,
Right.
I'm not gonna say anything, because I don't want this to become political in any way.
Right.
But I think we get spoiled here, because we do have the community, we do have, marriage equality, we have, the police and the safeties. And if you go outside of New York State, and if you go to a red state, you have people who are still closeted because they fear for their lives. And I think for me, that is a big issue that we need to go expand and try to get safety in other states, especially the red states. In New York City, there's obviously, and not only New York City, but across the country, the trans communities having, I don't even know how to describe it. I have friends who are trans, and I'm not saying that because say I have a black friend. I have a lot of friends who are trans who are having some serious issues with the police, with their communities, with their family. I think we need to somehow include in that, it is LGBTQ, and include everyone. We have our own problems, just like the black community has problems within the black community. We have problems within the LGBTQ community, and we need to try to resolve those and work together. And I think for me, that is the biggest issue, is for us to put all those leathers together and really to come together and work together to ensure that we all have safety and have the rights that we deserve.
I think another word for New York, we're like a little complacent because we think that everything is great, but like behind the scenes, we're all scrambling constantly to make sure that things aren't happening that are a problem. And a lot of it is that like people don't know what they don't know, so people think they're helping, and then it ends up being like not done in an artful way or something, and it ends up causing more harm. But like in states, in like Florida, Texas, like all of these states, especially in the South, they're literally criminalizing trans people being in state like public bathrooms. If you're in a state-owned building in Florida and you're trans and someone says you need to leave and you don't, it's my understanding of the law that I think you can end up on a sex offender registry. Like today in Florida, if I go to the bathroom with my kids, my in-laws live in Florida, so I just don't go to Florida. Because like,
Your in-laws or because?
no, there's a lot of stuff that people don't realize is just in the everyday kind of, you're just going about your business trying to function, and you're filling out a form, you can't fill out a form. Systems are not made to anticipate that we exist, and I think that a lot of the nerves about I'm not going to say this perfectly or do this perfectly could be alleviated if we just made the system neutral in the first place and made it so that everyone could use it in the same way in the first place. And then we could really pick up, like, this is where the gaps are. This is where this community is not getting served in the way they need to. Instead of keeping a system that for whoever knows how long, however long, has absolutely not included enough people and not been built for not just LGBTQ people, but anyone who is not a certain kind of person has trouble in the court system a lot of times. And so I think really rethinking, reimagining how we build these systems to respond to the needs of the community could make a big difference in how responsive they are.
Well, additionally, when you're looking at red states, when you're looking at people that live in red states, and I'm not saying every person that lives in a red state, they're not thinking of the community as the people that are sitting up on this panel. Okay, they're thinking of, let's go back to the old pride parades and and Stonewall riots and San Francisco, and they're thinking of the leather guys walking down the street. They're thinking that it's all deviant behavior. They're not sitting here and seeing judges, attorneys, everyday people who only want the same thing that they do.
But the leather guys are just doing their parade.
Exactly. But I'm saying they're not, to them, that's like, whoa, you know. And the more like events like this happen, and the more people just live their lives, live their authentic selves, and educate people. You know, that's the only way that anything's going to go anywhere. You know, it would be lovely to say that we live in a world where it doesn't matter your race, it doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter how you identify, it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what neighborhood you live in, it doesn't matter the color of your skin. That would be a lovely thing. But unfortunately, it's not. You know, people need to see this. You know, they need to see the faces sitting here. Allies of the community need not to be felt like, oh, well, is everybody going to think I'm gay now? You know, they need to feel that, you know, no, and we appreciate you. You know, that's
I want to touch on that allyship. All right. So the second theme of our Pride Month this year is empower. Okay. So for those of you who are watching online, this room is packed. Thank you, everyone, for showing up today, because that really does mean a lot to us. I want to flesh that out a little bit. So let's talk to the people, you know, who might not have felt comfortable coming here today. How do you think any of those people can best support LGBTQ plus people, even if they're not comfortable approaching them, or if they're not close with any LGBTQ plus people themselves?
So
Charlie, just pull your mic a little closer. Thank you.
I'm also very short.
It's okay. You get it.
There. So I think a really good first step is to learn what kinds of resources and materials are helpful and reliable, so that you're not just constantly relying on the marginalized person or the marginalized community to provide you with that information. So if you're looking online, resources that are created by and for trans people can be very helpful. And even resources created for allies by trans people can be very helpful. There are tons out there. There are organizations that put materials out. There are individual consultants that have materials. I'm always happy to share resources if anyone's got questions, wants to email me. But taking that responsibility as an ally, which is a verb, allyship is a verb. You're stepping in between to make sure that people are not being harmed. You're raising your voice when you realize there's something going on, to kind of save the marginalized people from having to do that labor constantly themselves. So figuring out kind of what the reliable materials are, and then actually digging into them and going out into the world with that new perspective will mean that you won't need to seek out LGBTQ people to be allies, to be an ally for, because you're gonna carry yourself as a safe person for people to come to. And so people might, you know, instead of like walking up to someone and saying like, you look gay, like, let's talk about this, it would be more like organic. It would,
Look gay. That's
I don't know, like,
you just don't have to grab Out magazine at the
right, like just,
yeah.
right. No, just, you know, if you have that kind of information and it's part of how you think about the world, that shows to LGBTQ people. We're just going about our lives. We will interact with you if you cause a problem that requires us to interact with you, or we will interact with you in the normal course of our life. Where, like, if you have questions, like, that's for you to look into, and then
right. Educate yourself.
right,
As
and
opposed to relying on those of us in the community to educate you. Let's build a bridge to kind of meet in the middle.
right. Well, and so that's the thing. Like my position, the whole point of my position, well, a big point of my position is to be able to answer these questions for the court system, for people who work in the court system, so that they're not having to have this kind of thought process in front of an LGBTQ person at their window or in their courtroom. You know, we can plan for things that might happen. We can make sure that you're ready and feel comfortable in case something comes up. You know, so my specific position is a little bit different than any, you know, the rest of the panel and any other LGBTQ person in the courts or out in the world, in that I am asking you to please ask me before, you know, like I'm open to whatever. But you can, like, we know kind of when the vibes are off and when you're asking something or doing something because you're trying to be difficult versus, you're learning. And so I don't think a lot of people will hold it against you if you're learning, but think before you ask a question or have a curiosity, is this something that, if I got asked this question 20 times a day by everyone in my workplace or everyone I encountered, would that get frustrating? Is this something I can Google?
Speaking of vibes,
Yes.
all right, let's talk vibes for a second. How should one respond to a heterosexual or cisgender friend or coworker who feels or speaks negatively about those of us in the LGBTQ plus community? So if one of our straight allies hears another hetero or cisgender person make negative comments, how would you like, if we weren't there, how would you like them to respond?
I think that was going to be basically one of my answers as far as the allyship. I'm probably going to give the same answer I gave Monday night as far as allyship, and it's basically we need to make sure we get our house in order before we start going out and asking allies to support us. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I would say there is a professional way allies can help, and that's basically training. I think there has to be more training or continued training with the court within the court system, because the trans community is, they're not treated the same when they come to court. At least in my court, I can honestly say that. There are issues when trans people come into the court, the way people address them. If they want to identify, if they identify as a female, even though the name says otherwise, you need to make sure you respect them and address them the way that they would like to be addressed. And I make sure in my courtroom that everyone is treated with respect, and we treat people and, ask them. It's not, there's no harm in asking, how would you like me to address you? Because you obviously see someone who is identifying as a female, but the name says otherwise. And if I saw someone in, say, a friend or a colleague addressing someone who is, say, trans, not respectfully, I would ask them, what, why? And do you know someone who is trans? Have you ever heard about anyone who's trans? Do you know what a trans person is going through? So I think we have to confront people. I think we have a tendency to, if we hear something, say, you know what, I don't want to get involved. I'm not going to get that because it's just too much going to go on. That person might get mad. That's how people learn. That's how people learn, is you address it at the time that it happens. Don't let it lag. Don't let it happen again. And they can go on to the next person and say, if they hear a friend say that, say, hey, wait a minute, do you know what's going on here? Maybe they can think about it and use that as an example for the next person. So that's why we do. I just don't let things go slide by. And I think we have to stop doing that. I think we need to confront it when it happens so it doesn't happen again.
I think
More of an
People learn.
educational confrontation.
Educational, yeah.
An educational confrontation,
Yeah.
I think, is a great way to put it.
You have to do it educational.
Productive.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with. Here's the thing, and I think Charlie, you mentioned this the other night. How many times are when you have to do it over and over and over again?
Right.
I think that there comes a point where it's like, is anyone else in the room going to say something?
Right.
And that can be frustrating for those of us in the community themselves.
Because the more people who say it, then they think about it. If you just let it keep going, it's like all the racist words that goes on as
Right.
well. If you don't confront it, then the person thinks you're cool with it, and you just let it keep going on instead of just confronting it when it happens.
My wife was once in a room with a bunch of colleagues, and someone said something nasty, and she called them out, and they said, I thought we were among friends.
Oof.
That is exactly the kind of thing, like, you need people to realize, if you're saying something messed up about LGBTQ people, like, you're not among friends. Like,
Right.
because they may, if you call them out, they may be grouchy with you and then go about their lives, but if they continue to do that, it's going to have a domino effect on every trans person they encounter in their courtroom. and in their life. Because then every trans person that comes in there is not going to get an equitable experience in the courts, on top of the personal discomfort and shame and whatever other words you might use for what that experience feels like from the trans person's perspective.
I want to ask a specifically trans geared question, okay? How would you suggest that people interact with persons in the workplace who may be dressed not in accordance with the receiving person's, of their gender expression? How would you counsel someone on that?
Is it relevant to the performance of their job duties? If not, then you work with them.
Live and let live,
That's
right?
it. Everyone wakes up in the morning and says, this is how I want to dress today. This is what I'm comfortable in. What if 60 years ago you tried to wear pants to work and someone made a face at you? Like, that's like, people are just trying to get dressed for work. And frankly, to not be able to wear clothing that is comfortable to you and that you feel like yourself in makes you a less productive employee. Before I transitioned, I was wearing suits since high school, and I would go in for interviews and they wouldn't know what bathroom to send me to. And, my mom said, why don't you just wear funky socks instead of wearing a suit? And I was like,
Socks
well,
are a
that's not
big
my
deal.
whole gender. But you like, I don't even remember what my train of thought was.
Well, people like to wake up in the morning. And
No, like you know what you're comfortable in, and if you are not able to go to an interview in something you're comfortable in, why are you going to want to go there every day and make money for those people and have to put up with colleagues who are not going to respect you? You just have to, you got to be. I don't know. I'm rambling again.
No, it's a good response. All right, let's turn to Unite. All right, that's our final theme, and we have some bustling in the room. We know people have to get back to the courtroom. Cake is being served. I see my equal justice members frantically getting
Beautiful cake.
It's a wonderful, beautiful cake.
I hope they took a picture.
Pictures to be posted later. Okay. So, I like this one because I think Judge Jennings, I think that you touched on this one before, but as members of the LGBTQ plus community ourselves, how can we all be better allies to the more marginalized groups within the LGBTQ plus community? And we could take anyone on that.
I think we can be examples to them, that we've all gone through things that they're going through. It's not easy, but we've made it. We are here for them when they need us. We can be mentors to them. Just someone for them to just be there for them. I think for me, when I was younger, I came out when I was and I think after law school, because it just was not something that was talked about in my community. And then I made sure I got involved in as much as I could in the LGBTQ community. I was involved in the political clubs. I was involved in, I worked for a gay men's health crisis during the height of the HIV epidemic, to give back and to be there and be that support for them. Because really, at that time, people who are going through the illness, they were so shunned. There was just no one there for them. And I made sure not only was I their attorney, but I tried to be their friend to go visit them because there just wasn't no one there for them. So that kind of carried me on into working for the court. The court, I can say, when I was at, legal aid, there were LGBTQ people, obviously at GMHC. And then in the court system, even though a lot of people weren't out, there was a few of us. And that's when we started the Gay Straight Alliance in the court. That unfortunately has kind of gone down. I would like to get that back, but that's not my position I can do. So we tried to be there and make sure that we were just there. And now just through the Failure Commission, being a mentor to young students that's coming up, law students who are interested in the law and interested in becoming a judge, just being there, I think is so important. because so many people don't have anyone.
I add something also, like, for young people coming out, and when we, the older ones of us on this panel,
Speak for
you know,
yourself.
I'm 57, I'm not ashamed to be 57, I'm 57. When we came out, there was no social media. There was no internet. I mean, if it was in its infancy. There are so many negative things that someone coming out sees, you know, teens or, you know, some even in their 20s, they see all these negative things. And I'm not saying that everything is negative, but I think in all honesty that just compounds what they're feeling. If they're feeling bad about themselves and all they're seeing is this negativity, that can also, we didn't have any of that, which we're lucky we did not. And a lot of the limits that we placed on ourselves in our own heads. And we need to mentor these kids, these people, and let them know you're only limited by you, you know, and that you have people there that will support you. You know, there are resources. There are a lot more resources now than there were. And just, you know, to advocate, you know, for people. One of my dearest friends, speaking of trans people, my friend Emily, when Emily was Joe, Emily went through a lot. Emily was married, she had 2 children. She tried to commit suicide twice because she knew this was not who, you know, she was meant to be. And, you know, I was one of the people that she would talk to, you know, and it made me, now she's confident. She's herself. She's, you know, she's living who she was meant to be. And I like to think I have a little part in, you know, helping her. And that's something that anybody can do. You don't have to be gay. You don't have to be trans. Just support the person. That's really all you need to do.
You know, and I feel like it's not even, it is about supporting, but it's also not being in the way. You know, not putting yourself in front of somebody else's journey to just say, because you're different and an other or whatever it is, I'm going to block your path to happiness
Absolutely.
and free expression. All right. So we've discussed some points of reflection. We've discussed some ways in which we can power each other and our allies, and we've discussed some uniting amongst the LGBTQ plus community. What piece of advice would you give to anyone who just wants to learn more? Now, we had already discussed, I mean, we'll educate, but we shouldn't be the only sources of education. So, like, one of the things that I like to do in order to learn stories about communities, you know, that I don't come from, is I find authors or movies from that community, you know, and try to
Nonfiction
read
too,
those
or
stories,
fiction
fiction
and
and nonfiction.
Reading is fundamental.
It
You know,
is. It is. Any suggestions, Ms. Martinez? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I agree with that. That just seeking out, you know, books or movies or, you know, anything that's out there in order to educate yourself is a good way of going about it.
Yeah, I feel like, and I'm a nerd. I'm always reading. I read a lot of nonfiction at work, so I kind of spend my time a little bit more fiction oriented. And I picked up this book, and I'm reading it now. And they play with gender a little bit. And, you know, I think all of us in writing decisions as judges and court attorneys, we get stuck on grammar. And I think that there's some, you know, I'm just reading this book, and a lot of the times, you know, it's they, them, they use they, them, and it's, you know, the first couple of pages, it was like, wait, who? But it just started becoming more of, I'm learning the characters just like I would meet a friend and get to know them a little bit more. So, Art, anything else? Any other tips for those folks in the audience? All right, I want to end on Judge Jennings.
I don't think I've ever read a book or saw a movie. I just hate those movies and I hate those books. I'm sorry.
Tropes are different now, though.
When you say,
Reclaiming the tropes,
Personal best.
not just
I
all
was a
getting
kid, you know.
murdered.
oh yeah, okay.
You saw that one, didn't you?
Yes, I saw that one. I saw that one. There was only a few.
There were only a few.
Years ago, so we've probably all seen the same movies. I would say, you know, there's so many organizations out there that you can get involved in that need your assistance to Ali Forney's, Callan Lord, to know more, to visit more. And there are young people out there who need you. There are so many that need you. If you can go out there and support, be a mentor. You know, we're all not trying to change you or change anybody to being gay. They just need someone to be there to listen to them like any other mentor you would mentor anyone else. And I think that for me is important. I always tell the story. I told the story on Monday night. There is still nervousness, even within my son is queer. And he sat my wife down and I, he came home one night and he said, I have something to tell you. And he was so nervous. He was petrified. And he has 2 moms. So you would think that it would be easy, but he knew he was going to have a hard life. He's a black man. He knew he was going to have a hard life anyway. But that just added to it. So they just need, the young people need someone to talk to. They've been kicked out. You know, obviously we didn't kick our son out, but you know, their parents have kicked them out because of who they love. And even in 2024, it's still happening. We think we've gotten so far, we still have far to go. Not only for the LGBTQ community, but obviously in the Black community, we have a long way to go because they're still viewed, the LGBT people who are in the life are still viewed the same way as 30 years ago. Parents, because the community is saying, you're wrong, church is saying, this is not the way God made you, you're a devil and all this other nonsense. Whereas, you know, I'm not gonna go off on a tangent, but the church is not, you know, there's issues going on there, but they don't see those, but they see us. And they see us as people who are not living the way God had planned for us to live, and that is absolutely not true. So I think for me, it is important that we reach the young people because they do not see, a lot of them do not see any way out other than taking their life. And that to me is very hard. As a mother, it shouldn't be that way. But it is what it is. So reaching out to anyone that you can come, a young person, can make a heck of a difference.
And I'm
That's
going
all
to give
saying.
Charlie, and then I got one more question for the whole panel I'd like to end on.
Just really quick, not just being a role model for the child themselves, but being a possibility model for the parents to see, like, there is an adult who is fulfilled and happy, has like everything they could ever want, and they're themselves. That is so mind-blowing to so many parents who did not see during the 90s an adult trans person besides Chaz Bono. You know, now there are trans adults and queer adults, and you know, we lost a whole generation of gay people, and now there are more young gay people coming out and queer people, and like a third of the Gen Z or whatever. My kids are 8 and 10. They're both non-binary and queer, and all of their friends are gay. Like 8 and 10, they know.
Yeah. All right. This is one that wasn't on the list. So sorry.
Boy.
But I'll answer it first for me, and then everyone can kind of take a minute to consider it. How do you show your pride? Not just this month, but every month. So for me, I'll throw this out there. I was recently married. Yes. And I think he's watching, so hi. So, you know, I made a conscious choice to hyphenate my name because the two of us coming together created a new family together. And that name for me, I'm very proud of it. I got up on a nameplate, even on the bench. And for me, it's a little thing, and it's a big difference though. And I think that as you know, a Parker Rosso now, I'm not just a Rosso. He's not just a Parker. We're together, and that's the way that we like to present ourselves. So, how does everyone else show their pride? Dawn?
Well, as a fellow hyphenated
Yes, ma'am.
person, I am a Hill Kearse, and that was intentional. When me and my wife and I got married, it was the very first year, during the first week that they were allowing gay marriage in New York. So it was really big and really intentional. We have a blended family, and we wanted to bring our family together, and that was really a big part of it, with our names. But I want to answer the question more in my capacity as a chief clerk.
Sure.
My pride is shown more of a protective nature. Like anytime a new employee comes onto my site, they get a couple of things. They have to fill out a paper with my secretaries, and then they come see me and my deputy, and we give them the 100% no tolerance for violence in the workplace and bias and prejudice. So I have seen physical reactions from employees in the room when I say that out loud, when I say to them, there is absolutely no tolerance for any type of behavior that is going to hurt or harm or in any way single someone out because of their age, their gender, their sexual orientation. It's just 100% not tolerated. And not only that, you're going to speak to each other in a professional manner in this building. And you see people, they're like, it's like, have you never heard this before? That we must, comport ourselves as professionals in the workplace. And if you do not, it will be addressed. So I show my pride through that protectiveness. I tell them, you're gonna go out, you're gonna go to the different departments, and they're gonna whisper and they're gonna say, that Dawn Hill cares. Just make sure, you don't be in here arguing and fighting or, anything like that. Keep your words really, clean because, they'll pull you upstairs. And I'm like, yes, I will. They are telling you the truth. If you go down in the departments and if you're rude or you're disrespectful, if you're saying, language that's, if you're not calling people by the gender, the prefixes that they would want to. If you're at the window talking to people disrespectful, not being patient, so I understand this is a LGBTQ, but we're people. That's what this is all about. Mm-hmm. It's about respecting all the facets of all the people. And all of you sitting in here today can do that in your capacity as a judge, a senior court clerk, a court attorney. You can put protection on everybody that's in your area. So that's how I show my pride.
That's great. That was great, Dawn. Thank you so much. Charlie?
Just briefly, when I came out as gay in middle school, I was just like being a gay person. My mom was like, don't shout it from the rooftops. And now I am a professional gay, and I shout it from
live
the rooftops
streaming
every day.
to everybody.
Live streaming my gaiety. It's very gay. And so I think just like living as yourself in every facet of your life it just allows you to be a fuller person. It allows people around you to see who you are, and if they want to be more involved with that, they can be, and if they don't want to be, then you can go your separate ways, but it saves everyone a lot of time.
Awesome. Officer Falco?
I mean, I don't wake up every morning and go, wow, it's a great day to be gay. That's not exactly something, I get up and do. I just, coming from a law enforcement perspective, people come into the courthouse, and for the most part, in my professional life, we're the first people that you see, that the public sees, and we need to maintain, a certain kind of decorum and a certain kind of respect, and especially, we want that in return, obviously, but I just think, to add to that, there's no room for any nonsense. There's no room for bias. There's no room for slurs. There's even a joke is not.
Right.
It's not a joke.
It's not a joke.
It's not.
But I show my pride by being me. If somebody has a question, they're free to ask me. I show my pride by educating my daughter, by letting her know, listen, you don't have to marry a woman. You don't have to marry a girl. You can marry a boy. You can marry a guy. I don't care. So I don't care if you marry a zebra, as long as the zebra's going to be taking good care of you. She knows that. She's got two moms, but she also knows that, who you love does not define you. Just that who I love and who anybody on this panel loves does not define them. So that's. pretty much.
Thank you, officer. Judge?
I'm gonna go continue with the theme of hyphenated names, but we've been together for 30 years. My wife and I, we have been together for 30 years. 30 years ago was very different. There were not a lot of same-sex couples having children. We were probably one of the first couples to have children in Brooklyn. So my oldest is 26, and they are hyphenated. Their names are hyphenated. It's Howard Jennings. And we decided we were going to give one, we have two. The youngest is 19, and that we were going to give one Juliet's initials, because we couldn't do junior, and my youngest has my initials. So I show pride every day just by just being me, like Bernadette said, and just making sure I've been out for 30 years, over 30 years, so can't go back in right now because everybody knows me. So, and just to also show, people have this idea that if we have children, our children are gonna be a certain way. They need a father, how come they don't have a father? My son is getting his PhD. The youngest one is an engineering student. Our friends all know them. Cynthia knows them for years. Malika's known them for years. So we dispel that. I just go out being me to dispel all those myths about how we are supposed to be. That we're not supposed to be, and she's amazing as well. Cynthia's a fantastic mom, and her son is brilliant. But just going out there to just dispel all these myths about who we're supposed to be. It's just not who it is, and there are myths. And I implore you, please find out and these are myths about who we are, because this is how in some cultures, this is how it's taught about how gay people are. It's not the truth. Go speak to someone, go find, see their families. We fight like everybody else.
We do.
We fight like everybody else. Our kids, my kids were lucky. They were in schools where people were progressive, and they didn't have many issues because they had two moms. There was a lot of kids there who had two moms. Not too many two dads, but there was a lot of two moms. So I think that's important. So I just try to continue to be who I am.
And your legacy through your children. All right, Mr. Martinez down there. Last one. How do you show your pride?
Well, similar to the rest of the panel, by being true to myself. Like, I found over the years that if I don't say anything, people will just assume that I'm straight. So in most workplaces, I consciously, I will talk about my partner the way that everyone else does, and not try to hide that, and that's how we progress as a society, I hope,
Great. Open and authentic and honest. Well, I want to give, please help me in giving our panelists a round of applause for coming.
Thank you.
It's Pride Month. Go celebrate Pride, everybody. We really appreciate you coming up. Look, there's standing.
I know.
Thank you. And we really appreciate everyone for coming out today. So happy Pride.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Right.
Hello, everyone. Before you go, I just want to take a quick moment of personal privilege on behalf of the EJIC committee here in Bronx Civil Court. Our supervising judge and the chair of the committee does not like public recognition, so please forgive me. But he is the most deserving person of said recognition. Come back out here. Come back out here. So for those of you who may not know this, Matthew Parker Rosso is probably, I think, the first openly gay judge that was elected in Bronx Civil Court. He also participated in the Gender Fairness Committee when they had the very first Pride event here. And now he has put on the first citywide Pride event. So on behalf of the EJIC Bronx Civil, his court attorney Chantel will be presenting him with a gift.
always say, which ball is that?
Yeah, I'm a sports guy.
You don't like it, but
Got you a Mets one instead.
it's a Red Sox hat.
Oh my God.
All right, I have a mug that I always bring on the bench with me. My best friend gave it to me when I became a judge. My first imaginary friend when I was a kid was Pinocchio, and only imaginary friend, and he's still with me at times. But Jiminy Cricket is to remind me to always listen to my conscience. So I really appreciate this. Thank you very much.
I love it.
All right, everybody.
All right.
Happy Pride.
We did it.
I can give you my email address. Yeah.
Oh boy, I gotta put my.